combination with our tabular presentation. Now, what is tabular presentation? Tabular presentation is a systematic arrangement of related idea in which classes of numerical facts or data are given each row and their subclasses are given each column in order to present the relationships of all the sets or numerical facts of data in a definite, compact, and in an understandable form. Now, tabular, these are the tables that you will be using in presenting your, what do you call this one? Presenting your data in your chapter 3. I'll be showing you an example later. Now, for tabular and textual, we have mentioned that we use text if our tabular is lacking, and we use tabular if our text is lacking. And with that, we have our certain rule regarding with the independence of tables and text. Now, ang sabi po dito, first, the table should be constructed that it enables the reader to comprehend the data presented without referring to the text. So, ang sabi po dito, yung table po dapat, kahit hindi pa natin nababasa yung text, maiintindihan na dapat natin kung ano yung content ng nasa table. On the other hand, our text should also be understandable even without referring to the table. It is because they should be independent with the way they were expressed or presented in your chapter 3. That even though kailangan natin sila together, table and text should be together in presenting data, we should also know that not all of your readers will be reading tables or not all of your readers will be reading text. So with that, we should keep in our mind that readers should understand the data in our table even without reading the text, or our audience should understand our text without even reading the table. So that's what you call independence of tables and texts. Now we have another way of presenting data, and that is graphical. In graphical, we will be using graphs, not tables, but graphs. So these are charts representing the quantitative variation or changes of variables in pictorial or diagrammatic form. If you can still remember your functional English and your English during your ninth grade, they have discussed their different graphs, which you can use in expressing or presenting data. And those graphs are bar graph, linear graph or line graph, pie graph, pictograph, statistical map, and ratio charts. Again, we have three ways of presenting data. We have textual, tabular, and graphical. I hope you are following. Now, let's move on with analysis. So according to Merriam-Webster of 2012, analysis is a separation of a whole into its constituent parts. Also, it is the process of breaking up the whole study into its constituent parts of categories according to the specific questions under the statement of the problem. And it is according to Calderon of 1993. Now, in analysis, we have two ways. The first one is qualitative analysis, which you have done during your ninth grade. But unfortunately, I think you weren't able to finish your thesis, right? Because pandemic started. You only had your questionnaires answered, but your chapter 3 and 4 were not defended because it is already suspended. But qualitative analysis, is not based on precise measurement and quantitative claims. Therefore, it uses words, phrases, and sentences in order to analyze a certain data. Examples of qualitative analysis we have social analysis, from biggest to the smallest class, most important to least important, or maybe ranking of students according to brightness. Now, these topics cannot be expressed with numbers or cannot be analyzed using statistics, but you can analyze and differentiate all of them by the use of words or sentences. Now, that is what you call a qualitative analysis. Now, the other one, this is what you will be using. We have quantitative analysis. And in quantitative analysis, you employ on your data some assigned numerical values and statistical treatment of data. So it can range from examination of simple frequencies, yung mga bilang-bilang ng mga votes or answers, to the description of events or phenomenon using descriptive statistics, and to investigate correlation and causal hypothesis using various statistical tests. Now let's have interpretation. So this section answers the question, so what, in relation to the results of the study. So what do the results of the study mean? So this part is perhaps the most critical aspect of the research report. Why do they say so? Because it is often the most difficult to write because it is least structured, and this section demands perceptiveness and creativity from the researcher. Now, among the three, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data, the hardest part to write is the interpretation because you need to interpret something with your utmost creativity as a researcher. Now, how do we interpret the results of your study or of our study? Now we have our ways. Actually, we only have two ways or three ways. The first one is to tie up the results of the study in both theory and application by pulling together the conceptual and theoretical framework, the review of related literature, and the study's potential significance for application, or what you call the significance of the study. The next way is to examine, summarize, interpret, and justify the results, then draw inferences considering the following. First, conclude and summarize. So this technique enables the reader to get the total picture of the findings in a summarized form. Because we all know that if someone is going to write us something which is very long, na puro salita lang, puro letters lang, walang kahit ano, we will become lazy or we will not have the motivation to read the whole text. That's why, as a researcher, if you are going to interpret a data, you should conclude or summarize it as best as you can. And also, in concluding and summarizing, it helps orient the readers to the discussion that follows. Next, we should interpret. Questions on the meaning of the findings, the methodology, the unexpected results, and the limitations and shortcomings of the study should be answered and interpreted. Well, first of all, as a researcher, we started with a problem, right? Our thesis started with a problem, and those problems should be answered by the end of our study, and we should interpret it properly for our readers to fully understand what is our study all about. Next, we have to integrate. When we say integrate, this is an attempt of putting the pieces together. So, pagsasama-samahin natin yung mga ideas or parts ng research na almost with the same context. Now, often the results of a study are disparate and do not seem to hang together. They might have different definitions or different context. In the discussion, attempt to bring the findings together to extract the meaning of the principles. Now we have different ways to integrate. Now the fourth one is what we call theorize. So this is when the study includes a number of related findings where it occasionally becomes possible to theorize. Now, here are the ways of integrating or the things that you can integrate. First, integrate your findings to a principle. Second, integrate a theory into your findings. And third one, use the findings to formulate an original theory. The next one, we should recommend and apply alternatives. And with that, we should know the phrases or words which we can use in interpreting our tables, our text, or our graphs. We can have table blank presents the, table blank indicates the, as reflected in the table, there was blank, as observed, there was indeed blank. Delving deeper into the figures, then you will continue the sentence. The illustrative graph above or below shows that. In explaining this result, it can be stated that, or blank is significantly related to blank, or is found to be determinant of, registered positive correlation with, and also use is revealed to influence, has significant relationship with, is discovered to be a factor of. In relation with the result, it may be constructed that, and in viewing in this scene, it can be stated that. We can also use as a result establishes the fact that, the finding suggests that, with the result, the researcher developed an impression that, this finding also validates the findings of blank. This improvement in blank could be understood in the context of blank. Now, those are the phrases and words that you can use if you are going to interpret a certain data in your chapter 3. Now, let's have other guidelines in presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. All right. Now, this chapter is organized and divided into several main components or topics, each of which is titled according to the sub-problem or hypothesis statements. Now, class, the first thing that you need to consider in writing chapter 3 is your statement of the problem. And I will be showing to you why should we consider our statement of the problem in writing our chapter 3. Now present only relevant data. In reporting data, choose the medium that will present them effectively. Presenting tables that can be presented as well in a few sentences in the text must be avoided. The textual presentation should supplement or expand the contents of the table and charts rather than duplicate them. Now, only objective data embodied in tables are made the basis of discussion. Also, the analysis of the data should be objective and logical. Now, in analyzing and interpreting data, point out those that are consistent or inconsistent with the theory presented in the study's theoretical framework. Also, in reporting statistical tests of significance, include information concerning the value of the test, the degree of freedom, the probability level, and the direction of the effect. And lastly, the findings are compared and contrasted with that of other previous studies and interpretations made thereof. Now, here is an example of chapter 3. Mhm. So in our case, your chapter 3 is our chapter 4. Now, before we move on to chapter 3, let me just show you my statement of the problem. Now, in the statement of the problem, take note, ang una natin ay demographic profile of the respondents. Ang sunod natin, are the respondents prepared in general English area towards licensure examination for teachers? Ang third question natin, is there a significant relationship between the respondents' field of specialization and their preparedness in English area towards licensure examination? Now let's go with our chapter 3. Dito 3 rin eh, kasi methodology ang 2. Pero sa isa, chapter 4 yon. Now, how do we group them according to statement of the problem? First, let's have the question number 1 of our statement of the problem. What is the demographic profile of the students or respondents according to the field of specialization? Now, you have here your table. Now, this is what you call your tabular presentation. Tama po ba? Now, upon seeing this table, can you already understand the data that we have according to specialization? Anong meron po sa table na to? If you're going to analyze this one without the text, anong meron sa table na to? Grade 10. If you're going to analyze this table without looking at the text, anong meron sa table na to?
Ian, oi. Ian, oi. Oi, you fucking nosy kid, oi.
Specialization of the
Oi, you fucking
respondents.
nosy kid, oi.
So, anong nakikita nyo dito? Ano yung meron sa 6, sa 5, sa 7? Okay, we have our number of respondents according to their specialization. So in here we have 6 preschool major, 5 special education major, 7 English major, 5 MAPE major, 1 math major, tas dalawang social studies major. Now, aside from the frequency, we also have the percentage. Sa total na 100%, ilang percent ang preschool, ilang percent ang English, ilang percent ang SPED, ang MAPE, Math, at SOCSAI. Now, if we're going to read the text without looking at the table, we'll have here our textual presentation. Table shows the frequency and percentage distribution of the respondents according to their field of specialization. Out of 26 respondents, there are 6 or 23.08% from preschool major, 5 each or 19.23% from SPED and MAPE majors, 7 or 26.92% from English majors, 1 or 3.85% from math majors, and 2 or 7.69% from SOCSI majors. Now, this is a textual presentation, right? It can also be your interpretation of the table that you have here. So meron ka na agad presentation and interpretation. You just interpreted and you just explained your table, the table that you have here on your question number 1. And then what is your analysis? Analysis is this one. The field of specialization that got the highest percentage was English majors. A simple analysis. For your respondents, most of them are English majors. You can also add which is the list. The field of specialization that got the highest percentage was English majors, and the lowest is the mathematics major. Analysis. Nakikita po ba? Sa isang number na to, we already have the presentation, interpretation, and analysis. Nagigets po ba natin? Now, how did we come up with here? We just answered our question number 1 sa aming statement of the problem. After that, proceed tayo sa question number 2. Ang question number 2 namin, are the respondents prepared in general area toward licensure examination for teachers? Now, in here, we have subtopics, but each of our subtopics, we presented a data and we have analyzed it with our scale. Di ba po, alam naman natin na ang bagsak ay 74 pababa. Tama? It's the standard of grades. So, pag 75% to 100, prepared or passed. Pag 0 to 74%, not prepared or failed. So, in our first subtopic, study and thinking skills, the average mean of the students or the respondents are just 3.81 or 38%, which has the analysis that 38% belongs to not prepared or failed. Now, after presenting your data, you will be interpreting it as well. Table shows the preparedness of general English or in general English in terms of subtopic study and thinking skills. Its average mean is 3.81, which correspond with the percentage of 38%, and then your analysis, it remarks as not prepared. Again, presentation, analysis, and interpretation. Nagigets na po ba on how to do your chapter 3? Great then. Your chapter 3 will be grouped by your statement of the problem. Kung ilan ang statement of the problem nyo, yun po yung number din or yung bilang ng i-interpret nyo, ipipresent nyo at i-analyze nyo. Ang alam ko sa inyo, marami kayong demographic profile, di ba? May iba sa inyo na maraming demographic profile. Lahat po yun, kailangan yung gawa ng table and interpret and analyze it. Now, maybe let's try to create now your first draft of your chapter 3. I'll be giving you the remaining time until 11:20 to come up with your first draft of chapter 3. Then I will be asking you to pass it next week. Are we okay with that? Grade 10? Okay, thank you so much. I'll be back by 11:15.